Welcome to Ask the Expert with noted radio host Steve Sleeper. Each week, Steve interviews entrepreneurs and professionals and shares their intriguing stories of success and service. Now, here's radio veteran Steve Sleeper.
Welcome to Ask the Expert, and today our guest is Paul Gordon with Gordon and McWhirter in Denver, Colorado. Paul, how you doing today?
Good. Cold weather here.
That's what I understand. It's kind of cold and rainy in Denver today. I'm in Omaha, and we'll get that weather tomorrow. But and as we're speaking, it's in March, so it is what it is this time of year. Hey, Paul, tell me a little bit about yourself and your firm.
My firm has grown into a fairly all-inclusive kind of firm, but it started out with me doing predominantly legal malpractice work. I grew up in the Denver area and went to law school at the University of Colorado. And then very early on, I was, by happenstance, working on legal malpractice cases, and I found that they were really challenging and enjoyable cases. So I've been doing that 23 years, I think, now.
Wow. Tell me, what is legal malpractice?
Well, lawyers are capable of making mistakes just like doctors or anyone driving a car. So if a lawyer makes mistakes, they can be liable for the harm they cause. If you take sort of an extreme example, one I've never actually seen, but it's imaginable, for example, that a lawyer might make a mistake on a simple defense of somebody who was shoplifting, and then all of a sudden that person's facing the death penalty. You can imagine that that lawyer should be held liable for that mistake. And lesser extreme examples happen all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that was going to be my question. How often do you see it? So you're involved in a number of cases concerning legal malpractice. Are they all in the Denver area, or how does that work?
No, my practice is nationwide. Often what happens is that a legal community is too small for any one of the lawyers to be willing to sue a colleague for legal malpractice. So that's where I come in. I'll be asked to maybe a rural community in Arizona or North Carolina or wherever to handle the legal malpractice case, and then when the case is all over, I leave and the community of lawyers can resume their normal operations.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. Very open-ended question, but what should I be looking for with my lawyer?
The main thing you want out of a lawyer is a hard work ethic. It's a problem in our community, in the legal community in general, that we're not doing a good job of identifying who the best lawyers are and making sure the best lawyers are getting to the biggest, most challenging cases. And frankly, we haven't quite figured out how to do it. But from the standpoint of a legal malpractice attorney, where I go in and I see how mistakes are being made, the most common problem is they just didn't work hard enough. They cut a corner. You can get a lawyer out of Harvard Law School who has great grades, but if great grades came to them their whole life, they might not have the work ethic they need. And I've sued Harvard lawyers, I've defended Harvard lawyers, and I've sued lawyers on all ends of the spectrum in terms of law school and pedigree. It really boils down to the guys who just live and breathe the law and work very, very hard day in and day out.
I think that's true with all of us. It's about work ethic. That's how you're successful, and that's how you take care of your clients. How do you prove negligence?
Well, to compare it, say, to an auto accident, if somebody makes a left turn and they didn't have a green arrow or they didn't have a clear lane, we all have a common sense understanding of what it means to be a safe driver, but we don't all have a common sense understanding necessarily of what it means to be a careful lawyer. So in order to prove legal malpractice, I have to bring in an expert who is familiar with that particular area of law Sometimes they have to be familiar with that particular jurisdiction, but that's less common these days. And that person testifies and says, okay, this is what the lawyer should have done, and because the lawyer didn't do it, there were probably mistakes that could have been avoided.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. I've picked a lawyer. I've asked him a bunch of questions. I've talked to a few lawyers, and I get into the case, and we simply don't get along. What do I do?
You get a new lawyer.
Okay. but
go ahead.
No, well, that's not necessarily malpractice, right?
No, it's not. The mere fact that you don't get along with a lawyer is not malpractice. The problem is that a huge part of the legal process and legal services is confidence. You have to feel like the lawyer you're working with is doing a good job for you. And it's important to understand also that lawyers are always working with clients, I guess with some exceptions, but almost always working with clients who are in some of the worst times of their life. People can go their whole life without ever talking to a lawyer. So when they're talking to a lawyer, if they're going through a divorce or they're having problems with real estate or whatever, these are difficult times. So lawyers are trained to work with clients who are struggling. And if the client can't get along with that lawyer, it's just you're apt to get to the end of the representation and have no confidence that you got good advocacy. And so once the relationship starts to go south, you need to get another lawyer. You need to understand that you have a right to get another lawyer. I mean, here's a problem that I think is pretty common, which is people sign a contract with a lawyer and they think that means they're condemned to being with that lawyer forever and ever. And that's not the case at all. You have a right to have a lawyer that you want in 99% of the circumstances. You get to choose, not the lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and great advice for anybody out there listening right now. Now, what if I think the bill is too high? What's my recourse there?
There are a variety of issues. The only thing that you're looking at is that the bill's too high. A lot of local bar associations have fee dispute processes where you can go to the North Carolina Bar Association or the Colorado Bar Association and say, I don't think this bill is right, and they can rather inexpensively arbitrate that dispute. I've worked on fee disputes that are in the millions of dollars, though, and that case is not going to get handled by a local arbitrator.
I see.
You can actually sue your lawyer for either a declaration that the bill's too high or for even getting money back if you think the bill's too high.
Okay. Let's say it's a personal injury case for discussion purposes. What if my attorney doesn't recover as much as he said I would get? What's the recourse there?
I would venture to guess that attorneys recover less than what they thought they were going to get in about 95% of the time.
I see.
Here's the real red flag there. The fact that the lawyer was willing to give you a number at all is a bad sign. There is too much uncertainty from the beginning of a lawsuit to the end of a lawsuit for a lawyer to be able to predict on day one what you're going to get. So if a lawyer says, well, you know what, I think this is a $400,000 case, and you'll net X, it's a red flag that your lawyer is over-marketing, if you will.
Okay. So in establishing expectations, lawyers typically will not throw out a number that they think they're going to get.
Managing the client's expectations is a huge part of what it means to be a lawyer.
What's the most common question you get?
The most common question I get is, am I popular among my friends? And the answer is, actually, I think the legal community appreciates that legal malpractice has to be done, that we're a self-policing agency. And so my colleagues respect what I do, even if they don't like handling those questions. But in terms of handling a legal malpractice case, I think the question of how much money is my case worth is the most common question, and certainly the most common question early on. And good lawyers will almost always answer that question by saying, I don't know.
I don't know.
It takes time to figure that out.
Okay. And what areas of the country do you work in? I notice you're in Denver, but you have an office in North Carolina. Tell me about that.
Yes, we started in Denver. I grew up in Denver. We have an office now in the Raleigh area that is growing. And then I'm pro hoc vice. What that means that I'm admitted in various jurisdictions to handle one case in particular, or that particular case, in Illinois, Indiana, Delaware, New Mexico, and I'm about to be admitted pro hoc vice in Texas and West Virginia. So that sort of gives you a feel for the fact that really my practice is nationwide, and I've even had tangential involvement in cases overseas.
Oh. And how do these communities find you? Is it word of mouth, or how does that work?
Well, these days it's through Google.
Oh.
But a lot of word of mouth as well. Somebody sits down and convinces themselves that nobody in the community is a trustworthy lawyer for their legal malpractice case, they'll just get on the internet and find me very easily.
And how do they find you? How do they reach you? I guess is the better question. How do they reach you?
The easiest way is we have a website. It's gorlaw.com, GORLAW.com, and you can read all about us, read about the people who are part of our firm, and then we have an intake form right on the first page, and you can give us a quick understanding of the legal problem, and we respond to that hopefully within 24 hours.
Oh, very good. Well, Paul, thanks for being on Ask the Expert today. This was an eye-opener. I learned some new things.
Well, I very much enjoyed it.
Paul Gordon with the law firm of Gordon and McWhirter in Denver. They have offices in Raleigh, North Carolina, and a multi-state practice. Our guest today on Ask the Expert.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Expert with Steve Sleeper. Join us next time as entrepreneurs and professionals share their intriguing stories of success and service.